The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast.
A track that has a famous history, a French track nonetheless, a track that has been around for many years, and a track that, well, Elbows Out has decided a 24-hour long race is just a little bit too long. So they're going to make this the 1 Heures de Le Mans. I'm probably not pronouncing my French right. Welcome to PTR TV, where pronunciation we never claim to be the strong suit of the show. But hey, we're going to have fun anyways. We're going to have a great time here, and I thank you for joining us here tonight. Welcome to Elbows Out Racing League for the Heures de Le Mans, as it's called, or 1 hour Le Mans, because again, 24 hours we just didn't want to do. It's going to be myself, Brad Dalton, up here in the booth, and I'm going to have Andre joining me, as is tradition for these Wednesday nights. Andre, good evening, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, you know, we're doing. Looking forward to some Le Mans. Do you like long straightaways? Do you like chicanes? Do you like historical relevance? Well, if you said yes to any of those, this track's going to have something for you in spades. It is a classic racetrack. Very long racetrack, Brad. They're not going to get that many laps compared to what we normally see in that 60 minutes. They're really going to have to think their strategies through.
Yeah, they absolutely are. It's going to be interesting to see how they go. Had some of the drivers giving me some ideas before about what they think the strategy will be here on the night. We have, of course, hired a Larry Mack to exist here on PTR TV. And Larry Mack, of course, is a GTP driver. So saying under 20 laps on the day here at what is about, I think, a 3.5 minute lap around Le Mans. So shouldn't be too bad. Should be fun. Yeah, about 3:27 is what we see the GTPs doing. And when they get that moving and grooving and done and dusted, I think it will be just fine when it's said and done. Points are, of course, pretty interesting as they stand. And then, of course, something that we haven't talked about a lot here, Andre, is the success ballast and kind of where it stands on the night. So if you won last week, you don't qualify this week.
Well, that is interesting for sure. It'll shake up the running order, I think, a little bit, at least to start, and then we'll see where everything kind of shakes out. But yeah, 8 miles or 8.4 miles, so says Wikipedia for this racing circuit. It's gone through a lot of iterations over the years. There was, of course, the old iteration that didn't have the chicanes on the miles-long straightaway. Now, of course, we have those to slow things down, make it a little bit safer. Very interesting pit road, bit complicated to get in and out, so that is going to be something for these drivers to pay attention to. And honestly, for once, the GTPs might have a little bit of an easier time, just because given the long lap times of this racetrack, given how big it is, they're not going to be encountering lap traffic quite to the rate that we've been seeing in every race so far, Brad. It's going to be further and fewer between. So maybe that's going to let these guys stretch their legs and battle amongst themselves just a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to lap traffic not being an issue for these guys. It's, as you said, it's something we see week after week that can cause problem after problem. But here in Elbows Out, for once, this might be the one time where we don't see traffic become a situation. As we stand here as your starting grid for this session, Cody Perodato with a 327.958 with Eric Mack, the return of the Mack, to second place, a 328.828. Aiden Garcia in third with Zachary Nerney in fourth. Bob Carey fifth. Dwight Hibbs in sixth. And, of course, Matt Toppin not allowed to qualify there, so he is stuck where he is. Now, let's look at the GT3 AMs. It's Michael Odell. It's Thomas Baker. It's Tim Wilson. It's Parker Chiapuzzo. And then it's Emily Milkey that is in fifth. Seth Vasselman in sixth. From there, it is seventh place Christopher Ondera, Nathan Hemperly. It is Christian Cardona, Kylan Bruce, Andrew Parker, Kyle O'Grady. They were not allowed to qualify this week. GT3 Pros, Brian Medderly, Nathan Kritchmer? Yeah, Kritchmer, that's it. Daniel Panera and Patrick Rich with Tyler Stenick, Paul Nice Sr., Callan Tobin, Martin Merkva, and Ethan Murphy, your GT3 Pros that find themselves in the position they're in. Grid is now rolling, and so you'll see about a 5-second gap stand between the GT3s and the GTPs as they go. GT3s here will, of course, have initial control of the field, and who do you think is going to win in GTPs today?
It's hard to tell. Again, GTPs have been pretty unpredictable this season, and I think this track is going to really add a wild card factor here because, again, we talked about the lack of traffic, but also the intense slipstream factor, Brad. There is so many straightaways, so many long runs these guys are going to get where they're going to be able to draft with each other. It's going to keep them very close, and it's going to be very difficult to determine who's going to get the slingshot maneuver, who's going to have the open road ahead of them. I just don't know.
Yeah, it's very hard to tell. And the one thing I will say here as they come through the Porsche curves, heading down towards the Ford chicanes at the end, if I am remembering my Le Mans track knowledge correct. Le Mans, of course, a track that, I know and love and have to, remember a lot because is the nature of enjoying any sort of endurance racing. There will be no discussion of eating cake in the middle of the night here on this broadcast. Don't worry, just 60 minutes of great action as they get these cars rolling through. And again, it's nice and slow behind that BMW safety car through the Porsche curves. I'm going to put my money on Eric Mack today. I don't know, for some reason I'm just feeling that it's the return of the Mack when it's all said and done as far as the GTPs go. In GT3 category, I don't have an answer for that one. That one I'm just going to let sit. But we'll come through the Ford curve, or the Ford chicanes here, and Cody Perodato, has control of the field. It'll be 60 minutes of action here around Le Mans. Green flag is out, and away we go for the GTP very quickly, heading towards turn number one, towards the Michelin curves, and doing a fairly good job of keeping it all together here and everybody getting in single file, getting going. So GTPs will do okay. GT3s have had an absolutely abysmal start here. Looks like we've already had multiple GT3s crash as they come through the field here to get things going. And they will try to get down towards the Michelin corners here at the lap start. Do well in one piece, and yes, that is Tyler Stenick there you see having an absolute run, along with Paul Nye the Donut Guy getting his way through. Lots of drivers getting slow here in GT3, but they do well to get away here early on. Everybody survives early, and now it's back up front to the GTPs as they run their way down the long Mulsanne straight for the first time, heading towards the first chicane, and it is Cody Perodato with almost a second already ahead of Eric Mack. As everybody gets going here, of course, it will be 60 minutes of action here around Le Mans. as it is called. Eric Mack now closing that gap very quick down the Mulsanne straight, down to half a second. Still trying to push to close and doing a fairly decent job of getting the run through while he can. Not able to get a pass done yet, but certainly trying back in the GT3 category, though. Look at this, Brian Metterly trying to get past Michael Odell as quickly as possible as they go through and battle, and they'll keep that running. Lots of very close battles happening. Dwight Hibbs is trying to catch as well here by about half a second.
Yeah, so as they work their way finally to the end of the straightaway, that slipstream did exactly what we predicted, kind of kept them close together. You mentioned that 1 second gap that he had going in. Well, that is pretty much depleted by the time they get to that first chicane, and then the second chicane even closer, now working their way down yet another straightaway into this sweeping right-hander. You'll notice they are following each other tire track for tire track. That's going to be the way that they want to get around this track. It's going to be the most optimal line to take. And again, open road, room to battle, no worries about lap traffic for quite some time. A little bit of a banked corner here. It's a unique feature on Le Mans. You don't see that much banking in road racing, so you kind of got to point it out when you do. It allows them to carry a lot of speed through that corner, but this corner here, a little bit different. It is a very sharp 90-degree corner, and there is no banking to be seen. And actually, the way the wall is and the way the curve is kind of laid out, it's a little bit of a difficult corner to line up for the apex, kind of difficult to see for these drivers. But then again, into a bit of a winding straightaway, off throttle there, and maybe a little touch of the brake, but for the most part, just rolling back the pace, using the curbs where they can, and just clicking off some clean lines as they work to complete their first lap. Not quite there yet, but a good battle between these two. And this section of the track right here, Brad, this was always the bane of my existence. I don't know what it is about these curbs, but in every sim that I've ever raced, this section that they're going into right here, this left, right, these curbs, man, they always seem to bite me.
Yeah, the Ford chicanes are very challenging, and I tell you what, Parker Chiapuzzo has already had a pretty challenging moment. Let's jump back here and take a look really quick at what happened to Parker as he's going through. And, well, I hate to say it, but it looks like the Porsche curbs came out to bite him. And no, actually, that was through Indianapolis. Let's get one more look at that here, because that was through Indianapolis towards Arnage. So here's the right-hander, and then this first left is Indianapolis. So he just lost it there and then just couldn't slow it down. So he had a moment. Kyle O'Grady has had a moment here, and tell you what, GT3s are having a bad time. This is through the Porsche curves, coming through and around. And then here is Paul Nye Sr., who's had a moment as well. What has happened to Paul Nye, the donut guy? Well, through the Porsche curves, and not necessarily a donut, more of a croissant. Very, very French of him.
Fitting, because we are, in France.
Absolutely, but I think he will get back going without too much of an issue, so we'll get back green flag running very quickly. Just 1 second here as the graphics need to get a quick update and quick reset on this, and we'll get back to live pictures here momentarily. And back to live pictures I bring you as they come through and get things going. Now, this is where things are going to get real interesting as they come through. Let's jump back up with our race leader here, Cody Perodato, because what has Cody Perodato managed to do? Well, Cody Perodato has managed to open up about a 1.5 second gap through on the front to Eric Mack. Really your closest battle. GTP is already stretching their legs. Well, it's right here. It's going to be Dwight Hibbs and Bob Carey battling it out here as they go.
So Hibbs trying to make the move happen. He's going to tuck into that rear diffuser, stay as close as he can, wait for that door to open. Now, I'm not super familiar with Le Mans as I am. It's obviously a historical race circuit. When it comes to racecraft around this track, I don't necessarily know what the great overtake opportunities are, Brad. I don't know where these guys are likely to make their moves. If you're in Dwight Hibbs' shoes and you're following along and you're trying to maybe pick up a position here, where do you think is the best place to strike?
Well, I don't think it's the Porsche curves like he's about to think about doing here as they have the run down the back stretch. I mean, you gotta be feeling it. So there's the right-hander. Here's Indianapolis that they're coming through now, and then they're going to run towards Arnage, which is, I mean, it's a decision there into Indianapolis. It's definitely doable, though, so it's a good move from him to get that done on Bob Carey. Typically, what you're going to see is down the Mulsanne straight towards the Mulsanne kinks. That's really where you're going to see it. You have that first Mulsanne kink, the second Mulsanne kink. That's where you're really going to see stuff. Porsche curves are always a popular option to look for any sort of passing opportunity. If you can stay close through the Porsche curves and kind of put a bit of a challenge on, that can sometimes give you a bit of an advantage. It really just depends on what you're feeling and how you feel about your car's handling. Some drivers, of course, are going to tune their cars and look for a bit more downforce. Some are going to look for more handling here in the Porsche curves, because the third sector, you always took... You mentioned, Andre, that the Ford curves, the Ford chicanes, were really kind of your challenging spot right here where we see them coming right now. For me, it was always the Porsche curves themselves. The chicanes I could knock out, but the Porsche curves I could not do at all.
Yeah, very challenging track in segments. And almost, with the long straightaways leading into really tricky sections, it almost lulls you into a sense of, I don't want to say a false sense of security, but it kind of numbs the brain a little bit, right? You get on these straightaways, you turn the brain off, you hit the open road, and then you're immediately thrown into these complicated sections of the track. And if you're not focused, right, if you're not 100% focused on your lines, you might get caught off guard. And the Porsche curves are a good example of that, coming right off a very long straightaway. You really got to focus, hit your marks, do not spin out like we saw Paul Nye, the donut guy, do, although he does have a lot of time to make up for that mistake, we will say. Still very early in this event. This battle here in the GT3's little battle it is. We're going to go too wide into the 4 chicanes.
That's
and they're going to sort it out single file, thankfully. Yeah, that was probably the best decision they made all night.
Yeah, going back into single file here. So Emily Milke will go ahead of Seth Bosselman, who is ahead of Callan Tobin there, who is in the mix as they continue to battle. They run down the main straight towards the Dunlop curve for the Michelin curve. Hold on, what is turn 1 there? Absolutely, it's Dunlop curve. There we go. Dunlop corner, Dunlop curve. I can remember Le Mans as they come through. So that is the first decision to be had. And we're only 10 minutes into this race, and several drivers have already felt the hard fighting effects of Le Mans here, as Callan Tobin is still trying to fight off against Seth Bosselman. This is a pro versus a Ram, so it's going to be very, very important for the Mustang to get past the McLaren as soon as possible as they head down the Mulsanne Straight, or Mulsanne Straight, as I believe it's more properly said. It's going to be really important to see those passes come through, and I think as we watch them go down the Mulsanne, a little bit of weaving here, and really, actually, I'll give you a fun fact here, Andre, about the Mulsanne. Really, you don't want to run off to one side or the other the way we see the drivers. The way you saw there on the screen right at the beginning, where you're running on that center white line, that's actually the best way to run, because remember, this is all public road, so it's all sloped off of your center white line.
Yeah, that is actually an interesting point. It is crowned like any road would be. The pavement of any public road, if anybody at home does not know or has never noticed, they are angled away from each other ever so slightly, if to just only slightly guide cars away from each other when they go by each other in the oncoming lanes. And so, yeah, you turn that into a racetrack, and what you have is slightly different banking on either side of the straightaway, and that's going to affect your corner entry, that's going to affect your chicane. Speaking of chicanes, that's not how you want to take it. Straight over the curb, missing a rear bumper, but going to continue on either way. Probably going to get a little bit of a slowdown for that. But yeah, staying right in the middle where it's crowned and keeping your steering kind of even, probably going to give you the best entry into those chicanes.
Yeah, this battle right here in GT3, this is getting real tough here. Paul Nye is in the mix here with Patrick Rich. They're going to go side by side through the Mulsanne kink, and now they head down and towards Arnage as they go. So actually, they've already been through Indianapolis, so now they go through Arnage. And I mean, just absolutely giving some battles as they run through here. We have had a few more drivers feel the absolute brutalness that is Le Mans as they come through and around. I mean, watch these GT3s just absolutely competitive as they come down and head towards the Mulsanne kink, and then they'll hit the Mulsanne curve, or Indianapolis into Arnage, and on the brakes they go. Paul Nye, the donut guy, doing a very good job holding on. A little bit wide, runs both Nathan Kretschmer and Patrick Rich there, which is going to open things up a little bit as they come through. And a few drivers here just having not as ideal of a day as they'd want to have. Let's go and catch a real quick replay here. Daniel Pinero is one of our drivers that has had to toe to pits. And what happened to Daniel Pinero? I believe the Porsche curves just don't like Corvettes. Ooh, that's a hard hit.
No, they do not. That'll be the second Corvette claimed, and on the brake pedal there to make sure he doesn't roll out into traffic. Nice to see. A little bit of awareness there. A lot of front end damage. That's going to be pretty significant. And this is, we have another incident there. The number 79 Porsche is go around into the Armco barrier. So I'll tell you what, if you are a collector of sheet metal from races and you don't mind a little bit of risk, there's a lot of sheet metal to collect if you run out on these straightaways. We've seen quite a few so far tonight. There's a replay of the chicane incident from earlier. Another bumper lying in the track.
Yeah, I don't know why there's so many bumpers going around, but I mean, hey, if you're going to have a bumper, might as well have a bumper. So everybody wants a bumper as they go through. But going back again to live pictures here, we go and get things going as we check back in with our race leader, Cody Perodato, who has just decided that, well, it's Cody Perodato's race to lose at this point. Now, I do want to refresh everyone. They are required to make a pit stop. Let's not forget that. So there is a pit stop that has to come in somewhere in this race. The question will just quite literally be where. Where do they decide to make that pit stop? And some drivers are going to want to do it earlier than others. Some are going to wait a bit later. It really just depends on how they're feeling.
Here's a bit of a fun fact, Brad. Our race leader, Cody Perodato, he just ran his best lap of the race. It's the best lap overall out of anybody. He ran a 3:28.746. That was on lap 4. So tires probably came up to temp round about lap 2. And by lap 4, they're starting to get the first signs of wear. And he's still clicking off really good laps. The next best lap time among these GTPs would be the car right behind him, Eric Mack, 3:29.447 for that driver. So not quite a second back, just about. And then you have Zachary Nerney, his best lap, 3:29.965. Then you got a driver in the 3:30 bracket, that's Garcia. And then from there, Dwight Hibbs, Bob Carey, those two that we saw battling earlier, 3:33 for Hibbs and 3:35 for Bob Carey, respectively. And Matt Toppin must have been involved in a lap 1 kerfuffle because he does not have a best lap. And the gap currently is showing about 50 seconds back from the leader. So bit of a struggle going on there. But either way, interesting lap times to see.
Yeah, it's very weird to see their lap times. I'm looking through. I don't see anything for Matt Toppin that's really catching my attention in the timing tower for what could have caused his issues. But just because I don't see anything doesn't mean it's not there. Checking in on the GT3 Pro category, it is Brian Medderly in the McLaren 720S currently leading as he goes through and brings that car around. There are battles back for position, though, a bit further behind. Again, this is just that absolute gaggle of cars that we saw going through. Nathan Kretschmer, Patrick Rich, and Andrew Parker that have decided that they want to absolutely scrap it out for fun here as they go through the Lamborghini's paint job there going through, but they have to try to battle where they can. Brian Medderly, of course, in the lead. Tyler Stanek in second. And then Callan Tobin in third. Paul Nye Sr. there in fourth, or Paul Nye the Donut Guy, or Paul Sr. Nye. I guess it depends on what you want to call him in GT3 Pro. Nathan Kretschmer, Patrick Rich, Martin Merkva, Ethan Murphy, and Daniel Pinero there all the way through. So let's just kind of watch and see how they fight it out here. Because they're having a pretty good battle in GT3 Pro, I'd say. Of course, they are mixed in with the GT3 AM, so you kind of have to look at them sort of in context together.
Yeah, the amateurs and the pros have been mixing it up quite a bit this season. Not the first time we've seen something like this. And again, end of the season, we're going to see drivers re-ranked and reshuffled, but to get to the pros, first you must be an amateur, and to dice it up with the pros, that's a good way to get some experience, and you like to see it. But yeah, a lot of separation so far, Brad. A little bit more than I was expecting, right? You look at the GT3 pros. Tyler Sinek about 6 seconds back from Brian Metterly. And you got Tim Wilson about 5 seconds back in the amateur division, 4.5 seconds from Michael Odell. Actually, Thomas Baker, something happened to Tim Wilson. He is dropping through the running order big time. I don't know if he's had an incident. Yes, it looks like he has. He was second place. I was just saying he was 5 seconds back. Now he's kicking up dust. The car has a little bit of damage. Not entirely certain what happened, but incident in front of him as well. Oh no, it is going to be Paul Nye, the donut guy, once again. Now it's going to be Paul Nye, the Armco guy. As we take a look at the replay, I believe this is what happened, right?
That is Tim Wilson. Here's what just happened to Paul Nye going on there right as the camera cut away. And, well, I hate to say it for Paul Nye, but Paul Nye, slide sideways guy, did he get away with it? Did he get away with it? He somehow got away with that.
He did. I thought he got into the Armco barrier, but what a save that was. Paul Nye, very talented driver, seems to be struggling with this track significantly. It's weird to see. I mean, Paul Nye, week in and week out, as we see a replay of Seth Bosselman having an incident as well. But, yeah, normally you expect to see Paul Nye be the class of the field up there in the GT3s, and yes, France is not welcoming him with open arms.
And not at all as it goes through. I don't know what he's done to France, but very clearly they do not want him to come around here into the northern region of France as they come through and around. Here's the 876 of Emily Milke battling it out with Callan Tobin. This is a pro-am mixed battle that is absolutely heating up and going off, and they're very much having a good time of it here as they go. We'll hop on board here and follow along with the Mustang. 41 minutes left to go in this race. Are we going to go for the pass? Are we going to go for the pass here on board? It does not look like it as we continue along, keep the battle moving and grooving. And just keep watching them go through. A couple of things that have caught me off guard. Some black flags have already been handed out. I was not expecting that.
Well, with the way that this track and all the chicanes they have, I would assume some track cutting, some incident limits, definitely going to be the case. Maybe even some penalties from last week. They need to start like a drive-through or whatever else. But yeah, it's been an interesting race, that's for certain. A lot of separation, those black flags you mentioned. A lot of self-spins, a lot of single-car incidents, more than we're used to seeing. I mean, the track conditions are pretty good. 82 on the blacktop is not overly hot. They're not going to be slip-sliding around on that, but even still, seems like the handling conditions just a little bit tough out there.
Yeah, something is not working well for these drivers with this track and these cars, and I'm not sure exactly what it is here. Daniel Pinero has had a bit of an incident and gotten a meatball flag. Not sure what's happened to him, but clearly not having the best of times, possibly the worst of times, as we continue to watch these drivers race around. And things are really, with 40 minutes left to go, everybody is really just trying to, I think, find position, settle things in, and do what they can while they can here as they come around. This is going to be Seth Bosselman, who is currently chasing down Andrew Parker. Again, Andrew Parker with a black flag ahead. I'm going to imagine that is a track limits issue as it comes through for Andrew Parker. We'll see what that Lamborghini decides to do. As of right now, that Lamborghini is just absolutely flooring it, though. Trying to get away with it while he can, and I believe he has actually had to dive off into the pits, and he'll take this time to go ahead and take that one mandatory pit stop, and it should get him to the end of the race.
And there's that tricky pit road entrance I was talking about. You kind of got to take a chicane going in, followed by another chicane, and then the exit not exactly straightforward either, so you do want to avoid any potential speeding penalties. Here comes Paul Nye. Not a surprise there. These tires on iRacing, once you spin out a couple times, you're putting heat cycles through them, and the car is not going to handle the same. Once you have a big slide, it completely changes the feel of the car, and you can't really get it back no matter how much you lay off and you let the car kind of recoup and cool down. It's different. So I would imagine taking this early pit stop, giving himself a little bit more time on these fresh tires, not a bad call. We'll see if he can recoup some of the time that he lost. Andrew Parker is going to have a very long pit stop here. Maybe some damage to be fixed. Still in his stall is Paul Nye going to be pulling out.
Yeah, he's having to serve that black flag, so I think that's also what's catching him up there is black flag plus possibly a little bit of front-end damage if I wasn't mistaken here. Eric Mack down into third place here with Zach Nerney getting passed. We'll see if we can get a replay of how that pass actually happened as they go through, because that was a big moment here. Let's see if we can cue up a little bit of a replay. So this is through the Ford chicane, and it looks like just an error for Eric Mack. He cut that last chicane wrong and just lost the position there. Zach Nerney taking the lead, or taking second place, not the lead, away from him there. So that will be a battle to watch here as they continue through. Eric Mack going to have his work cut out for him, I think, to get back up into third position.
Yeah, it is going to be a little bit of work, but plenty of time to get it done. 37 minutes remaining on the clock as we ride on board with Eric Mack down into one of these chicanes. Quick left, then right. Careful on the throttle, and he's going to get through it pretty successfully. So dive it down, Pat. Gains a little bit on the car ahead, but again, like you said, it's got a little bit of work ahead of him to get back up to P2. Currently, 0.8 of a second is going to be the difference. A little bit within the slipstream range, so that'll help him a bit. Some lap traffic up ahead. That is a GT3, one of the cars I believe we saw get a little bit loose earlier. I don't believe he went around, but either way, they have finally got diced up in traffic a little bit. Took longer than usual, and they're probably pretty thankful for that.
That took a lot longer than usual for traffic to come and be a factor, so we'll have to watch and see how much of a factor traffic can be otherwise. There is that GT3 missing the rear bumper that we saw earlier. I believe that's Christopher Ondera. No, Christopher Ondera actually missing a front bumper, so that is a different driver. Christian Card, no. Not sure who that is, so we'll ignore who that could be at this point as we go through. Eric Mack still trying to apply some pressure here. 1.2 seconds now the gap, and continuing to open up as they go here. Zach Nerney goes through. Race leader Cody Perodato. Let's check in with him here as he is just kind of carving his way through traffic.
Yeah, and even though the traffic is not going to be as persistent and constant, this is a track where when you do reach the traffic, it's not super easy to navigate. You might notice it's a bit of a narrow circuit, lots of curbs on either direction, grass on either side of the road for the most part, very few runoffs. So if you're going to pass them, you got to do it on the blacktop. You got to do it the right way, and they don't really have much room to get out of your way, even if they want to. So sometimes you got to be patient, but luckily it kind of goes the other way as well. With this track having the straightaways that it does, if you catch them in a good place, you can just kind of motor on by. But man, you get them in the Ford chicanes or the Porsche curves or really any of the trickier sections, and you might have to wait.
Yeah, and having to wait is never a fun thing to try to tell a driver. Like, hey, wait and be patient. They never want to do that. Let's be honest. It's not in their nature. It's not a thing they want to do at all as we go through and continue and, just sort of enjoy the action that is happening here. $34 minutes left to go here. Checking back in on our GT3 leader, Brian Metterly, and then Michael Odell currently leading GT3 AMs by quite a bit. And I will have to double check myself there on Michael Odell, as something tells me pace-wise he could be a pro and not an AM.
It could be, but I mean, if he's entered as an amateur, I mean, he could be a newcomer to the league and just happens to know this track pretty well. We'll have to double check, but it is showing him in the amateur division, 15 seconds the gap. And you also have to remember, Brad, there's been a lot of self-spins, so that gap may not necessarily be on pace, just more so that a lot of drivers have had misfortunes. Again, the second place car earlier, not too long ago, had an incident, got sideways, and made the gap even bigger as third place inherited the position, but we'll wait and see. Things not much closer up front. Cody Perodato still leading the way in GTP. Zachary Nerney going to be P2. He is 5 seconds back. Eric Mack not quite reeling in Nerney the way that we thought he would. If I take a quick look at the lap times here, the last lap for Zachary Nerney was a 3:29. Last lap for Eric Mack and Cody Perodato, 3:31s for both of those drivers. So they're on the same stint. None of those drivers have pitted yet, and yet somehow Zachary Nerney clicking off nearly 2 seconds faster a lap.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see those lap times come through. Just so you know, those of you in YouTube chat, I see that there is an Ethan Murphy watch party. I hate to say it, Ethan Murphy may be having a little bit of a heartbreak night here in the Porsche as he goes through, but we'll give him a little bit of time here. Every driver deserves their screen time where it can be allotted as Ethan Murphy is running through, getting some time done. A few other drivers we don't talk about near as often here. Nathan Hemperly coming over the hill in the Porsche as well here on Le Mans as we approach half race distance. Half race time. Andrew Parker in that 045 coming through that Lamborghini, going a bit slower. Not ideal. Christopher Ondera up ahead, and then it's Parker Chiapuzzo there, not too far. And then Paul Nye, of course, up in the mix. Cardona, Kyle O'Grady, Patrick Rich here, who is running through, and then Seth Bosselman, who is currently coming through the curves. This just kind of gives you an idea of where everyone's at in the field. Martin Merkva battling it out with Tim Wilson by about half a second, and then Nathan Kretschmer here battling it out. Emily Milk going through with Callan Tobin, and then Thomas Baker just a few seconds ahead. Side by side they go, and it looks like Emily is going to get past Callan as Callan goes into the pits. Michael Odell here staying out, and then Brian Medderly going through. So plenty of drivers doing plenty of things here as we hit this half race distance time. And I'll tell you what, we're going to take a second here. I know this is typically a NASCAR thing that we do with temporarily loud engines here on PTR TV, but Andre, I'm kind of enjoying bringing temporarily loud engines here into Elbows Out. I don't know about you, but I really am.
Yeah, let's go ahead and appreciate the different engines, the different sounds that the multi-class racing really has to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to take a moment here. We'll leave you on board with, what's we don't normally do an on board with? Let's go on board with Bob Carey here. Actually, he's on an outlap, maybe not as enjoyable. So let's go on board with Thomas Baker, the Acura NSX. We're going to do some temporarily loud engines. Stick with us, ladies and gentlemen, here, and we'll be right back. All right, and that is our Whiplash SimCam segment of temporarily loud engines here with elbows out as they go. That was on board with Thomas Baker going down Mulsanne, down Indianapolis, down through Arnage, and now it's the Porsche curves and an Acura. So how does the Acura handle the Porsche curves here as they go? Well, it seemed like not too bad, I'll be honest with you. It's myself, Brad, in the booth, joined as always, as is tradition, as is the fun here, by Andre. And Andre, it's been Le Mans. It's been fun. This is the longest track that we'll run. Actually, I can't say that because we're running the Nürburgring for the season finale. So 90 minutes around the Nürburgring at the end of the season will be kind of interesting.
Yeah, it certainly will, as Thomas Baker's going to make his dive down onto pit road. Ethan Murphy, again, the Ethan Murphy watch party. Well, you're definitely watching him. Unfortunately, like Brad pointed out, a bit of a rough night so far, but he's had a better night than a few. We've definitely seen some drivers that are struggling with the handling. They've been the stars of some replays, and oh no, never mind. He's not having a better night than some guys. I take back what I said.
Yeah, that's painful is what I call that one. So, but he is back going here. Obviously, you can see from that camera. But from this camera on board, you can see he is back going and running and, you know, still trying to challenge. That is the one thing I will say for all of these drivers. They do a very good job of getting back out there and continuing to battle and go. And, well, Tim Wilson has now decided to take his McLaren 720S off-roading here through the Dunlop curves, and not the way Dunlop wants you to treat those Dunlop tires, but is indeed what he's doing. And Michael Odell there in the background joining him, going off-road, going a bit slow. Again, not at all what Dunlop advises on your McLaren 720S GT3 Evo, but I mean, I guess if you own a McLaren 720S GT3 Evo, Andre, you kind of do what you want with the dang thing.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you might as well have fun with it. And fun he is having, but in the meantime, a little bit of a battle brewing here in the GT3 class. A lot of cars in a line. They've not found that separation. We've seen Emily Milky, tail end of this pack. We're going to go on board with them, and they're going to be right behind that Mustang. Mustang ahead of them gets a little bit loose, gives up a little bit of time, but a little bit of a lift there out of this Porsche is going to extend that gap. I think they themselves got a little bit of wheel spin, had to give it the old panic breather for a minute, but down the long straightaway headed towards that first chicane. Some GTPs in the back of the shop. They're going to be gaining very shortly. And now to the inside goes. Let's dive it in a little bit deeper. Get the move done. I believe they will get clear. That is going to be move complete. A little bit of a challenge, but unfortunately not able to strike back. Put that number 33 up one more on the pylon.
Yeah, that's Nathan Kretschmer there going through and battling it out. That is not the battle for GTP. That is actually, we're back here. That's Nathan Kretschmer, Emily Milke, and Paul Nye Sr. now getting into the mix of this there in the background as well. Because, of course, we now also have Thomas Baker who's in the mix on this. So that is your class gaps there. And if we go to your actual intervals as they stand on track, you'll see that these cars are all fairly close to each other as they continue to battle through that 505.43 and 876. Really bringing some action here around Le Mans. 24 minutes left to go, and still several pit stops left to go. Dwight Hibbs in the GTP. I was going to say currently in his pit stop, but very clearly Dwight Hibbs has had something bigger happen in that PlayStation 1-esque car. What has happened to... That's a wheel failure is what that is. That is a... Let's go on board here. Watch the steering wheel. I think this is just a straight up disconnect. Yeah, look at that. Just straight up right, no steering, locked in. That is a big old disconnect, sir. All right, let's hop on board here with our race leader, Cody Perodato, with 23 minutes to go. And you can see head looking very comfy. If we look out of the gearbox here, has about 5 seconds to the car behind. So looking very comfortable at the moment and not really having anything to worry about here, Andre, as he goes through the second Mulsanne chicane.
Yeah, we'll have to see how he was able to navigate it riding on board. I'm a little surprised that Zachary Nerney was not able to reel in Cody Perodato, and the reason for that is just looking at these lap times. Every now and again, Zachary Nerney is just clicking off an absolute banger of a lap. Seems to be faster on many laps than Cody Perodato, but they're just kind of trading back and forth, and that's why the gap is opening and closing, because one lap Cody Perodato sets down a heater of a lap, then Zachary Nerney sets one down, and when they're both fast, nobody is. So interesting to see, though. And of course, Eric Mack not quite able to get back up to second yet either, although he is slowly reeling them in. We'll have to see. 7 seconds now, the gap to the leader, and only 2 seconds back from Nerney. So Eric Mack actually doing a good job to relay and get up there. Still has yet to pit. Battle right here. There is the number 43 once again. He can't seem to get away from the battles tonight. He is going to be right behind this Porsche. See if he can't make a move to make something happen. A little bit too far back right now, but it's been a very steady, good night for that 43. See if it continues.
Yeah, and just got to keep it nice and steady all the way through. I think that's the key to Le Mans for me, is just that consistency going through and keeping things moving. So as we watch here, the 43 going past Emily. Emily blows up a lot there going on to the start of the Mulsanne Straight. Not sure exactly the reason there, but that is just something I've noticed with Emily. Seems to be very slow getting onto the Mulsanne Straight. And then once Emily realizes that she's a little bit slower, somehow gains some speed back. All night, the donut guy going up the inside. No donuts to be found there for Valvoline Monster Energy Corvette, but able to get in position and move up one, now up into P15 overall, which is where Paul Nye wants to be, but then has a very slow run going in through the next curve, and will then give that position back up to Emily.
Yep, so Emily going to take that position back and do it in a good place to do it, right on the straightaway. But I'll tell you what, it's been a lot of mid-pack battles so far tonight, has been kind of the story of the night. And here comes our GTP leaders finally into their stalls. Going to split this race in half as we kind of expected them to. We had a few very early takers, opportunistic drivers getting on pit road early, but these three drivers, they're going to do it as we expect, as we see every week. Right down the middle, 20 minutes remaining. There goes Cody Perodato. He's led every lap so far. And I believe Zachary Nerney is going to get out of the box second. Eric Mack not far behind. So these three are going to cycle out, I think, just a little bit closer than they went in. So this has made the battle for the lead a little bit more interesting, as the green flag pit stops tend to do. Curious to see.
Big wiggle there from Nerney going through. Remember that they have to take 4 tires mandatory, so they're on ice-cold tires right now trying to creep this car around. Who is going to be the best at this? I don't know, but all three of them look very wiggly here, Andre.
Yeah, you know, I'm a little bit confused. The track really does look slick. Obviously, cold tires for these drivers who just came out of the pit. That's going to be the explanation for them, but all race long, all night long, we've seen drivers getting a little bit of wheel spin, getting loose, even spinning all the way out on numerous occasions, especially the GT3s. They seem to be struggling the hardest, as you'd expect. Not quite as much downforce as the GTPs, but either way, for as much overcast as we have, you'd not expect this track to be so slick. But sometimes I look at these cars and it kind of looks like pregnant dump trucks on ice.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better myself. It's absolutely crazy every once in a while. 19 minutes left to go here in this race, and still plenty of action to be found here. And if this is your first time here on PTR TV, make sure it's not your last time. Make sure you like and subscribe here. We're on a mission to get to 1,700 subscribers by the end of the year. Well, 2,000 by the end of the year. 1,700 is our next milestone to get there, and just need a little bit of help to get into that next spot. So be sure to like and subscribe. Help us out. Tyler Stenick is just half a second away. Well, was half a second away from Martin Merckfa. I believe that is lap time flying to is what that is. Is that that gap is 20 seconds here. It's Brian Medderly that is half a second away from Tyler Stenick. There we go. That is a more proper gap that I'm looking at. And as they go down the Mulsanne Straight, this is going to get real close, real fast.
Yeah, that it will. Looks like a little bit of fog rolling in, I am noticing as well. We had a lot of blue skies and sun at the start of this race, but the overcast has rolled in. A little bit of fog as we have our distant camera as well. This is not a good situation at all. On the outside of a GT3 going into the chicane, not able to get the move done. Has to give it a huge panic cliff now down this straightaway. What is going on here? Seems like the GT3s were making his life a little difficult. I don't know if that was intentional or what the full story was there, but boy, oh boy, that was a lot more chaotic than it needed to be for Mr. Carey.
Yeah, Bob Carey there. I don't know what the decision was. I mean, really, if I was Bob Carey, I probably would have backed out of that and just sort of relaxed it a little bit more, but obviously choosing for the battle and the fight as we go through. Brian Medderly, Tyler Stenick still battling it out hard here as they go through, continuing to battle and compete, going bumper to bumper here. 17 minutes left to go. They'll only have a couple more laps probably left to go here, because remember that a lap around this track, if you're in a GT3, is about 4 minutes a lap. So I mean, you do the math, 16 minutes, that's just 4 laps left. It's not a lot of time, so you can't afford to be patient here, but great move possibly coming from Brian as Tyler Stenick runs it a bit wide there, and now it's just going to be bumper to bumper full speed as they go. Let's see what happens here as they head towards the Mulsanne Kink, down towards Indianapolis and Arnage.
Yes, they're going to tuck in right behind one another, sweeping right-hander here. Don't think he's going to get too aggressive falling out of line here. He's going to wait till they get to a more opportunistic portion of the track. Like you said, there is a few sections where overtaking is going to be a little bit easier to do, but either way, going to stay in line. No move to be made there. Huge gaps for the lead in GT3 Pro and GT3 Am. 20 seconds going to be between Martin Merkva and Tyler Stenick in Pro. And then in Amateur, it is a 24-second gap. Michael Odell, Thomas Baker. That is a eternity away from each other. And while the GTPs did cycle out a little bit closer than they went in, the gap has since kind of fluctuated a little bit. Zachary Nerney back to 4.6, which is almost exactly where he was when he came down pit road. About, lingering between that 6 to 4 seconds. It would go back and forth. Eric Mack, though, 6 seconds back from the leader. It was 7 seconds prior to that pit stop. So slowly but surely, Brad, Eric Mack is reeling these guys in. And it's not a fluke thing. It's not like every now and again he clicks off a banger of a lap and then the next lap he gives it up. No, I've been looking at the lap times. He is consistently just a little bit quicker than the 2 leaders. The question is, does he have enough time? Because we're getting down to the end of it. 15 minutes remaining. It's not a lot of time when you're trying to make up a 6-second gap, but it's not over till it's over.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to actually pull up here as he has just now come out of the box. So let's look at this predicted lap time here. So that's going to be that top right number, the 329 that is fluctuating there. So that is taking his current pace and predicting what his lap time is going to be happening. So we'll see where this lands out, because I think Eric Mack has some pace and can definitely go for at least the P2 again. It's just a matter of closing it up here with a second and a half to go. All pit stops have cycled. So where your favorite driver is there on that leaderboard, that is actually where they're at as they go through. And you can see there's Zachary Nerney just ahead, and Eric Mack very clearly a driver on a mission and a BMW trying to chase down a Porsche through Porsche curves. I mean, I couldn't write the storybook better myself. Continuing along here, keeping this battle moving and grooving. We'll see where that lands. We're about to have a battle for P2 and GT3 Pro shape up, as well as they have started to close things up here a bit, and gap is about 4/10 between them coming out of the second Mulsanne chicane, or no, that's the first Mulsanne chicane here, and now they head towards the second chicane on the Mulsanne Straight as they go through. Let's see what happens here as they battle. Paul Nye and Nathan Puncher going side by side. Paul Nye, the donut guy, holding the outside line, and the inside line will be Nathan Crimcher there, going through side by side. Hold on to it. This can sometimes get ugly, and Nathan backs out of it, gives it up to Paul Nye, and Paul Nye now just has to defend.
Yeah, this is the Paul I would expect to see. Like I said, week in and week out, Paul has been the class of the field in GT3s, and for some reason, the start of this race, it was just struggle city for him. Now he's kind of found the pace. I think he can rally up and catch a couple cars to get a few points out of it and kind of salvage the night. But I'll tell you, Nathan did not make it easy. He's been putting up a good fight himself. He's ran a good race so far. I did notice when Paul Nye passed him, he did blink a little bit. Nathan, I've seen him blink a couple times so far tonight. Don't know if he's got any internet issues. Could be nothing, but I know that as a driver, especially in a race like this, you start blinking, the internet starts to fail you, and it really strikes the anxiety in you, because you know that when you blink, nobody else really knows where you are. You kind of become a hazard. And also, if your internet blinks you out too much, it's just not going to count your lap, which would be disastrous. Luckily, it seems to have stabilized for now, but time will tell.
And it will, and not counting the lap around Le Mans, I mean, you might as well just sell your PC at that point. Sell your racing gear, because that is a absolute horrible sin through, and that is a race more than ruined. That is a race devastating, I would say, as they go. Continuing to watch through and watch these battles continue along. More battles developing. Again, second place for GT3 Pro. Tyler Stanek and Brian Metterly are getting close together and closing in. So battle to come there as we hop on board with Brian through the Porsche curves, trying to chase down that Mustang if he can, and taking a lot of real estate there to get it done. Through the grass, he's going, he's doing everything he can to get the move done, and, well, just keep pushing. He's really, really right on the ragged edge of grip as he goes through. Back with the GT3 EM category, I mean, that gap is just ridiculous in ways that I can't explain. 27 seconds the gap between Michael Odell and Thomas Baker as they go, so that is going to be a beautiful, beautiful gap for him, and he's just going to very much enjoy it and let that be. Eric Mack now within about a second or so-ish of Zachary Nerney, and we'll see if he can manage to get this pass done here sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so he's finally caught up to Nerney. He's kind of stopped gaining on the leader. In fact, he's actually lost a little bit of time to the leader, but he has reeled in second place, which would be a few more points on the night, and I think this is going to be a good battle. Eric Mack, no stranger to some crazy battles so far this year. He's been in the dirt, he's been in the Armco, he's been too wide, he's been through wide, he's been in victory lane, he's been on the record. It's been a wild season for Eric Mack, and he definitely never fails to put on a show.
You can say that again, because it gets very, very ridiculous watching those battles go through. It's so much fun, but it's so... I don't know. Eric Mack has always messaged me before and after a race and said a variety of things. I think my favorite thing was a couple weeks ago he messaged me. He said, I just need some more prayers from the broadcast. And I told him that a prayer for me wouldn't do anything for him. So I'm probably not the one that he wants praying for him here. So we'll see how it goes for him as he continues. Try to battle it out. We're right on board here for just a moment. But you can see that sector 3 really where he's losing time. And yeah, Eric Mack, 423, sent me a message and said, more prayers, man. I just need more prayers. Next week is the one. What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. Nothing ever goes wrong.
Exactly. So let's see what happens here as he goes through. We've had a few more incidents that I want to go back and catch while we watch this battle continue through. Just want to see if we can find where these battles have went and some of these incidents that we may have missed while we were going through. Again, if you're an Ethan Murphy fan, this was Ethan Murphy's moment earlier. Actually, no, that's a new one. So that is after he's pit and come back out. He's had a moment and just realized that you got to come off the replay screen there to actually get that. So this was Ethan Murphy through the first Mulsanne chicane. Unfortunate to see there for him. Christian Cardona has had a bit of a moment where he was going slow. We'll see if we can pick up what happened to him. just a misjudge of the sausage curb on the Ford chicane. Nathan Kritchmer had a moment there battling it out with Paul Nye, the donut guy, and was there contact? Very hard to tell from that angle. We're going to get one more run.
I believe there was. We'll take a look at the audience, and now this.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't pull a Corey Silva and say I'd bet a 4 for 4 on that, because that was a very obvious contact. And then Tim Wilson had a moment somewhere in the mix of this as well.
Well, now I will say, too, though, Brad, it looked to me like the car ahead of Paul Nye got loose, and that's what initiated the contact, because Paul Nye was right on the bumper, and I don't think it would have happened. I think they would have gotten through that corner without contact, but they were so close together that when the lead car got sideways, that was pretty much all she wrote. You can see they go in the corner, and right there he's loose. Actually, no contact made. You can see, if anything, a little bit of net code, but other than that, he did skate on by. So yeah, just a bit of a self-spin. We've seen this many, many times. I can't believe Paul Nye didn't hit him, because I would have. If I was him, I would have not been able to get out of the way. My reflexes aren't that good, but Paul Nye is. He is that good.
I'm not convinced that there wasn't a little bit of contact there, or maybe a little bit of net code coming into play. Aiden Garcia, well, that is not ideal for Aiden Garcia. That just happened. So if we go back to live pictures for Aiden Garcia, yes, Aiden Garcia with 7 minutes left to go is driving this car with no rear diffuser, no rear wing, and is just absolutely sending it around Le Mans. Oh, and did I also mention the messed up rear tire? If we go check out the rear end here, if we can get a good picture of it, that right rear is just completely disconnected from that car. There's your best angle of it.
Yeah, that's not ideal. I think he's going to pull it off, call it a night. He had a little bit of, let's call it dynamic toe-in on the right rear, so not an ideal situation. As it's getting so dark that if I didn't know this race was set to be dry, I would think there's some rain rolling in, but of course, the time of day, I also believe, 1:57 p.m. in sim, and they got the headlights coming on. That is how dark it is getting. It is, to quote the song, getting dark, too dark to see. They are lucky this is set to stay dry.
Yeah, honestly, I full-heartedly agree with you on that one, because it's a bit ridiculous right now, just how dark it is, but that's just how cloudy it is here. Another battle to watch on your screen at the moment, Martin Murtha and Callan Tobin as they go through, and yes, that is indeed the number one of Paul Nye the Donut Guy, joining them for company behind, so make it a 3-car battle for the podium place in GT3 Pro as they go and come through down towards the first chicane here on the Mulsanne Straight. Looking for a little bit of a dive there, the Mustang is, of Martin Murkva, or of Callan Tobin, not able to get the pass on Murkva, and we'll have to settle in behind for another lap at least as they come through. We hop on board with Paul Nye, the Donut Guy, who is going to just keep that Corvette right behind for company.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting if Paul Nye can get up on the podium after the night that he's had, 2 self-spins, a very early pit stop, which means his tires are just about as old as anybody's out there, maybe older. It has been a great recovery for Paul Nye. What a drive. Even if he doesn't get up on the podium, you still got to give him his flowers. But if he does, I would put that up there with some of the best drives of this season. And it's a very real possibility, because this is a 3-car train, Brad. These guys, bumper to bumper, fighting for position. GTP leader does catch them. There goes Cody Perodato, and he catches them at a very opportune place. Paul Nye goes to the inside, almost gets run off the track. They're able to get separated, up one more position, put Paul Nye in P4. That was a very close situation, but luckily able to gather it up. Hopefully he did not get a slowdown from that. Now he's only got one more car to try to overtake if he wants that podium, and that is going to be Martin Murkva. Murkva and Paul Nye, these two, not strangers to one another. They have been involved in quite a number of battles together.
That they have, and we'll just see how this plays out for them as they go through. This is through the Mulsanne Kink, and now it's down into Indianapolis here as they go. They'll stick together. Just 4 minutes left to go in this race here around Le Mans, the 1 Heures de Le Mans, however I pronounce that. Again, just French. I don't know why I'm even trying at this point. Le Mans. is about the best you're going to get out of me here tonight as we go through. It's been a great race, I will say. I had a little bit of a concern coming into this race with Le Mans being such a large track that, maybe there wouldn't be near as much action as we're used to, but these drivers have very happily proven me wrong and produced some great racing here in Elbows Out.
Yeah, it definitely has. Boy, that camera angle really wants to show us some trees, but put on some really good battles now. Paul Nye has closed the gap just a little bit on Merkva. He's to the bumper. He's within striking distance, I would say. We're going to be heading it down into the 4 chicanes. We will see if they can somehow navigate this cleanly. Single file. There's the first 2. 3 and 4 in the books. We're going to be good to go, and you can see Paul Nye using every bit of that sausage curve, trying to cut that corner as much as he can. Another GTP around the outside. That is going to be Eric Mack showing good patience, waiting until it is a better time to get around him, not interrupting this battle. He understands these guys are battling for position. They are battling for points. He doesn't want to mess it up for them, just like they don't want to mess it up for Eric Mack. Respect shown among drivers. And there is Cody Perodato, a little more traffic on the way. I don't think Perodato's really got to worry about it. Eric Mack did take second place from Zachary Nerney, drove away with it, 10 seconds the difference between them. But Cody Perodato is 14 seconds up into the sunset with only 2 minutes remaining. If he just hits his marks, he could let off the throttle. He could be 2 seconds a lap slower and still win this race.
Yeah, and it should be this lap, I believe, might be the last one. We'll see if the checkered flag is called at time or if we get this lap plus one more here as Cody Perodato is continuing to run. Has had such a great race. Check back in here with Paul Nye, the donut guy, trying to get up to P3, trying to get on the podium places. Gets the pass done on Martin Merkva. Very good pass, I will say, to get that run around there. So good for him as they will continue another lap here. But Martin Merkva will try to bring the battle back. You can see, I believe that is Matt Toppin who is swerving his way through. Actually, no, that's Zachary Nerney who is bringing his way in and out of that GT3 traffic, just trying to get the passes done and through there. Now Paul Nye wants to pick up a little bit of a draft there on the GTP. Cheeky little move. I like that, as he knows that he can get a little bit more there if he just tries.
Yeah, obviously you want to get every advantage you can get, and if that means drafting off of one of the faster cars, then go ahead and do it. But Paul Nye to the podium. What a recovery it's been. I tell you, when Paul Nye is on, he is on. There is nobody in the GT3s better than him at his best. But he is not infallible. Like I said, start of this race, it was struggle city. So, tale of 2 races for sure for Paul Nye. But either way, he's got to hold on to this position. He's got to hold on to it for another lap and a half, give or take. And we'll see if he can wind up on that podium. What a great salvage it'll be. And as far as amateurs concerned, Michael Odell, just a casual 33-second lead. It's a barn burner of a race back there. No, Michael Odell, he's just got to run his laps, finish it out, take a victory lap. He's run a phenomenal race back there in that number 56. There's some side-by-side action here. Martin Merkva, Tyler Stanek, I do believe.
No!
And, oh no. Oh my goodness, they sorted out. They did not wreck.
How are they both? Well, I wouldn't say they sorted out yet. Here as they go. Final lap has been called, so white flag is out. So this is going to be all the marbles coming through. But, I mean, for Cody Perodato, it's through the Ford chicane. It's done. It's dusted. It's a beautiful win here. And Barney will see him with the checkered flag for him to win. And now we all eyes back as this has absolutely erupted.
No.
No.
Well, I thought they sorted it out. They did not, evidently.
No, we'll go back and get a replay of that here in a second. Brian Metterly has crossed the line there for Pro and Am, showing as Michael Odell. Paul Nye, the donut guy, will bring it across the line here for the podium that he has fought so hard to get back up to. It has to be said. A great job from him to get that car back into the podium places. And let's go back. Let's find the replay of that moment that we just missed between Callan Tobin and Martin Merkva here And this is your replay of how it happened. I mean, that's just, I'm not gonna say words.
It's a little hard to tell. I mean, again, it was a bit of an awkward angle. Those two had been kind of roughing each other up. Yeah, I don't know about that one. We'll let the admins decide. We're just showing you what happened, and we will. I'm just not entirely certain it really was intentional. I honestly think that might have just been a bad flick of the wheel, trying to get a bit of a side draft on them. They've been bumping and rubbing. I think they were just trying to swap some paint, show their displeasure, and then it got out of hand.
Yeah, so this was the Indianapolis incident that we cut from for the race winner. And then this was through our Naj Moore bumper tap. I mean, we'll hop on board here with Martin Merkva going through and trying to give it a run. He's trying to run and, I mean, come and take it on the rear bumper, going for position, and then they're just going to drag race it side by side, and then, well, Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, they were racing hard. They were using each other up, and intentional or not, that usually only ends one way. So either way, back to live timing. We will get your final running order as well as your driver interviews for the winners of each respective series, and see what there is to see what the drivers think about this rather unique race here at Le Mans.
Absolutely. And your full screen results here as follows. Cody Peredato, Eric Mack, return of the Mack to P2 with Zachary Nerney in P3, Matt Toppin in 4th, Bob Carey in 5th, Dwight Hibbs, Aiden Garcia rounding out your GTP field. GT3 Pro is as follows. Brian Medderly, Tyler Stanek, Paul Nye Sr. fighting hard to get back up into 3rd. 4th place, Callan Tobin, Nathan Kretschmer in 5th, Martin Merkva in 6th, Patrick Rich in P7, Ethan Murphy in 8th, Daniel Panera in P9. And then GT3 AMs, the all-important GT3 AM field, Michael Odell, Thomas Baker, Seth Fosselman, Emily Milke, Kyle O'Grady, Christian Cardona, Christopher Ondera, Parker Chiapuzzo, Andrew Parker, Tim Wilson, and then Nathan Hemperly and Kylan Bruce, one of our DNFs on the night. Let's see where the drivers are at. Let's see what we've got available and see if anyone wants to have a little bit of a chat with us here tonight. As always, we try to find our top 3, but somebody else is around and available and would rather talk. We can always do that. But tell you what, Andre, we have Cody Peredato, who, I mean, absolutely took off with this race. And Cody, talk to me about your race, man, because it seems like you were unstoppable tonight.
It was very much on the edge, more than I wanted it to be. I kept seeing Mac behind me getting slowdowns, pushing a little too hard on a few of those corners, and I was not going to risk that with how much time loss comes with it.
Yeah, Cody, it was fun to watch going through. Kind of talk to me about your Le Mans experience here. Of course, this is a long track, kind of brings a unique situation here when it comes to the racing for Elbows Out. Just 60 minutes, of course, no 24 hours to be found here. But did you find anything unique with the racing here compared to, say, shorter tracks where there's, like lots of traffic?
I found that trying to maximize the energy regeneration on the braking was really important here. Trail braking really far into the corners helped a lot on the straights, getting back so much power. The tires definitely fell off very significantly from one lap to the next, just because it's 4 minutes each time. They're completely different feeling every time you go through the corners. So it's a track you have to be aware that the car might not be very similar to what it was last lap, so it can catch you out really easily if you don't.
And looking at next week, Cody, we go to Interlagos next week. How are you feeling about 60 minutes there around Brazil?
I don't even own the track, so I have no feelings yet. I have no experience there, so it'll be a learning curve if I'm able to show up. So I've heard it's a good track, so there should be some good racing there, but lots of learning.
Awesome. Well, I think you're going to have a good time, man. Congratulations on the win. We'll let you go celebrate, and we will catch up with you next week.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
And Andre, I believe you have caught up with our GT3 AM winner, Michael Odell. If Michael is available and would like to speak, let's bring him up.
Mr. Odell, you got a copy?
Howdy.
Well, Michael, what a barn burner. Super close last lap. No, you had a 30-second lead, buddy. You were the dominant driver in your division by a mile. Just walked away from the field. You made it look easy, but was it actually that easy behind the wheel?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't know there was a pro-am split. So at first I thought I was second. It felt like I definitely was struggling a little bit getting used to the car, as I usually am in the Vet or 296. So this is a new territory for me in the Audi, but it seemed to do pretty good.
That it did. Seems pretty good indeed. It had to be if you got a 33-second lead. And, it really seemed like this track suited you. We saw a lot of drivers struggling with the handling conditions for one reason or another. There was a lot of single car spins, a lot of drivers getting some wheel spin and really eating the curbs up and getting into the barriers. You didn't really make any mistakes, at least none that we saw on camera. So, hey, if we didn't see it, it didn't happen. Tell me a little bit about how you were able to navigate this place.
We'll brush a few slowdowns under the rug. What is it? So the biggest thing I think that really helped with my staying power and just if any mistakes, allegedly, was most of my practice here was in a LMP3, which is a lot more sensitive to curb strike and miss inputs. So a lot of that time in that car really did help to where instead of it being you go to hit a curb and realize that it's too much for the car, this car takes a lot better than the LMP3s. So when I was where I'm used to avoiding it and then realizing I can lean on them more versus realizing you lean on them too much, especially with some cars in the class will really use them for the extra track space. I think it just helped piece together the run being used to a lot more sensitive car. So it was pretty much just leaning into the curbs as the stints went on.
Interesting input there, and again, we'll wipe those slowdowns under the rug. Again, we didn't see it, so it didn't happen. It was a perfectly flawless race, but I believe you're going to be seeing the red plate pretty soon with pace like that. And my last question, I guess, is going to be, how do you feel about moving up to pros at some point here?
Honestly, awesome. It's cool. It seemed like it was actually really nice to have a good battle there. I was a little bit down on I should have changed the wing, but other than that, it was fun. Really fun. Hopefully I can make more of these. If not these, the Thursday night ones I'm be eyeing up as well, depending on what my schedule looks like.
All right. Well, we thank you for your time, Michael, and again, congratulations on your division victory. And again, the slowdowns didn't happen, so we'll be seeing you probably within the coming weeks if you can make them, and hopefully we do.
Hopefully, we'll see what we can do.
Awesome. Michael, real energetic there to go through. And we'll pull up our last winner on the evening, Brian Metterly here in the GT3 Pro category. Brian, good evening. Long time no talk.
Yeah, good evening, guys. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Talk to me about your Le Mans race here.
It was kind of crazy. I was honestly pretty frustrated with myself in the middle of the race. I underfueled a little bit, so I was going to have to wait on fuel instead of just the tires like I normally like to do. So I worried it was going to mess up my strategy for the race with Tyler. And luckily, it didn't hurt too bad there. I was trying to just keep up with him on the draft and whatnot, and unfortunately, he made a little mistake there at the end and caught the curb. It looked like a little too much, unsettled the car, and I was able to keep out of him and capitalize on it and come home first place, so I'll take it.
Yeah, it definitely was a very well-earned first place. And, in terms of pit strategy, I heard a variety of things from different drivers that I spoke to throughout the day. Some wanted to pit early, some wanted to run as long as possible and take that pit stop as late as possible. What was your planned strategy? And, I heard you say the fuel maybe was going to mix things up there, but it seems like you were able to stick to it.
Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't overfuel by much. It was like half of a gallon, maybe a little bit, almost a gallon. But I usually in these races I tend to like to overfuel in the beginning, so that the fueling ends just before the tires, so there's no waiting. But I'm not overfilled too much where it slows my pace down at the beginning of the run. Tonight, I think Michael was actually pretty quick there in keeping up with me, and I got an off track right there in the first. I think it was the first lap. I can't even remember now, and was kicking myself a little bit for that because I've been practicing the last couple nights, and that was what I focused on most, was not getting the off tracks and the slowdowns, because I had a feeling that was going to be the big decider tonight. And luckily, that was the only one or two that I got, and just tried to keep it clean the rest of the race.
Yeah, Brian did a very good job with that. And I gotta ask this question just because I know you have a lot of pace. You seem really quick. Have you ever thought about going into GTP? Is that something that might be on your radar for future seasons?
Yeah, it definitely is. I even debated it for this season. I kind of go back and forth. I've been talking with Tyler Stinick and Paul Nye about it. I don't know. I just like the competitiveness of the GT3, and I'm a little more comfortable in it, so that's what I've been sticking to. Probably maybe practice a little bit more up in the upcoming weeks in preparation for the upcoming season to see which one, competitive-wise, and just I feel more comfortable in. I don't want to jump in it and then be, 10 seconds off the lead, or the pace, so to speak, and just putzing around in the back. I'd rather like to be running up front or mid-pack, at least having a little fun and mixing it up.
Absolutely, Brian. Be awesome to see. And regardless of what you choose to do in future seasons, awesome to see you winning here now. Congratulations.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for the broadcast. Always enjoy rewatching it later on.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. We'll catch up with you later.
All right. You guys have a great night.
All right, Andre. Well, it's been another successful week here of Elbows Out Racing. Great runs from everyone. And, well, we survived the 1 hour, the 60 minutes of Le Mans.
That we did. We survived. And again, I got to give my drive of the day to Paul Nye. We didn't get to interview him, but basically being the last position in his division after those two spins, able to get all the way back up to third in dramatic fashion with a couple of great overtakes at the end there. Definitely made it interesting. Highlight of the race for me. And also, you got to shout out the GT3 amateur winner. I mean, just driving away from him, 33-second lead. You do not see that every week. Even in road racing, you don't tend to see that. So impressive, and you got to shout it out when you do.
Absolutely. Great run here from everyone in Elbows Out. And of course, next week, as we mentioned earlier, will be Interlagos. So we'll see what that brings. But on behalf of Andre, my name is Brad. We've taken you start to finish here tonight around Le Mans. Be sure to join us next time where we'll take you start to finish yet again. Good night.